The blind date she regretted turned into the unexpected story that changed her forever. The disaster. The rain drummed softly against the tall windows of the Golden Spoon, one of downtown's most exclusive restaurants. Emma Rodriguez smoothed her black dress and checked her reflection in the mirror beside their corner table. Her dark hair fell in gentle waves past her shoulders, and her brown eyes held a nervous excitement that she tried to hide behind a confident smile. She had spent an hour getting ready for this blind date, carefully applying makeup and choosing the perfect outfit. Her best friend Chloe had been insistent that Trevor Richmond was exactly what Emma needed. He's successful, charming, and ready to settle down, Chloe had promised. Plus, he specifically asked for someone accomplished and beautiful. Emma glanced at her phone. Trevor was already 20 minutes late, but she told herself that successful businessmen often ran behind schedule. She sipped her water and watched other couples enjoying their evening, wondering if she and Trevor might look like that by the end of the night. The hostess approached with a tall man in an expensive navy suit. His hair was perfectly styled, his smile practiced. His eyes immediately began scanning Emma from head to toe in a way that made her skin crawl. This had to be Trevor. Emma Rodriguez. His voice carried the smooth confidence of someone used to getting what he wanted. I'm Trevor Richmond. Sorry I'm late, but I had an important call with investors in Tokyo. Emma stood to shake his hand, noting how his gaze lingered on her figure rather than meeting her eyes. Nice to meet you, Trevor. Please, sit down. Trevor settled into his chair and immediately flagged down their waiter. We'll have your most expensive bottle of wine, he announced, without consulting Emma, and I'll take the Wagyu steak. Rare. The lady will have... ... He looked at Emma dismissively. Something light. Maybe a salad? Emma's eyebrows rose. Actually, I can order for myself. I'd like the salmon, please, with roasted vegetables. Trevor waved his hand as if her preference was irrelevant. Right. Women and their food choices. He turned back to the waiter. Make sure that steak is perfect. I don't accept anything less than perfection. As the waiter left, Trevor leaned back in his chair and studied Emma with the same intensity he might use to evaluate a business acquisition. So, Chloe tells me you're some kind of artist? I'm a graphic designer, Emma replied, trying to keep her voice pleasant. I run my own studio and work with several major clients on branding and marketing campaigns. Cute, Trevor said with a condescending smile. So basically you draw pictures for a living. Must be nice to have such a relaxing job. Emma felt her cheeks flush. It's actually quite demanding. Last month, I helped rebrand a tech startup that increased their market value by 30% through our visual strategy. Trevor's phone buzzed, and he immediately picked it up, scrolling through messages while Emma spoke. That's great. Listen, I need to take this call. It's about a deal worth more money than most people see in a lifetime. He stood and walked toward the restaurant's entrance. Leaving Emma sitting alone at the table, she watched him through the window, gesturing animatedly as he spoke. Other diners began to notice the abandoned woman, their sympathetic glances making her feel even smaller. 20 minutes passed. The waiter brought their appetizers and looked questioningly at Trevor's empty chair. Should I wait for the gentleman to return? I think he's coming back, Emma said weakly, though her confidence was rapidly disappearing. When Trevor finally returned, he didn't apologize. Instead, he launched into a detailed explanation of his real estate empire, barely pausing to breathe. I own 17 properties across 3 states, he bragged, cutting into his appetizer. My portfolio is worth more than most people's houses. That's impressive, Emma said, attempting to steer the conversation toward more personal topics. Do you have any hobbies outside of work? Things you're passionate about? Trevor laughed, but there was no warmth in the sound. Passion is for people who can't afford to be practical. I collect vintage watches because they appreciate in value. I drive a Ferrari because it makes a statement about success. Everything I do is calculated for maximum return on investment. Emma's heart sank. What about family? Are you close with your parents? My father taught me that relationships are just another form of business transaction, Trevor replied, checking his expensive watch. You give something, you get something in return. Speaking of which, what exactly do you bring to the table, Emma? The question hit her like a physical blow. I'm sorry? Trevor set down his fork and leaned forward, his eyes cold and calculating. Look, you're attractive enough. I'll give you that. But I'm not looking for a charity case. I need someone who can enhance my image, attend high-profile events, and not embarrass me in front of important clients. Can you do that? Emma stared at him in disbelief. Are you seriously asking me to audition to be your accessory? Don't be dramatic, Trevor said, waving his hand dismissively. I'm being honest about what I need in a partner. I assume you want someone who can provide for you financially. It's a fair exchange. The restaurant seemed to grow quieter around them, as if other diners were unconsciously drawn to the tension at their table. Emma's hands trembled slightly as she reached for her water. Glass, I don't need anyone to provide for me, she said quietly but firmly. I built my own successful business. I own my own home. I'm looking for someone to share my life with, not someone to use me as a status symbol. Trevor's expression shifted from dismissive to openly annoyed. Then you're wasting both our time. I don't date women who think they don't need a man. It's unattractive and impractical. Emma felt tears threatening behind her eyes. But she refused to let this awful man see her cry. I think this date is over. She started to stand, but Trevor reached across the table and grabbed her wrist. Sit down. We haven't finished eating, and I don't like looking like I've been rejected. His grip was firm enough to hurt, and Emma's voice caught in her throat. The confident, successful woman she had felt like an hour ago seemed to evaporate, replaced by someone small and frightened. Please let go of me, she whispered. Trevor's smile turned cruel. You know what your problem is, Emma? You think you're special, but you're just another mediocre woman trying to punch above your weight class. You should be grateful that someone like me even gave you a chance. The words hit Emma like physical blows. Every insecurity she had ever felt about herself came rushing back. The voice in her head that sometimes whispered that she wasn't smart enough, pretty enough, or successful enough suddenly grew louder. Just as Trevor's grip tightened and Emma felt herself beginning to panic, a deep voice spoke from beside their table. I think the lady asked you to let go. Emma looked up to see a man standing next to them. He was tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a simple gray sweater and jeans that looked like he had come straight from work. His dark hair was slightly tousled, and his green eyes held a quiet intensity that commanded attention without demanding it. Trevor looked up with annoyance. This is a private conversation. Move along. The stranger's gaze never left Trevor's face. Doesn't look very private to me, and it definitely doesn't look like a conversation anymore. There was something in the man's voice, calm but unmistakably firm, that made Trevor release Emma's wrist immediately. She rubbed the red marks his fingers had left, her heart still pounding. Who the hell are you? Trevor demanded. Standing to match the stranger's height, but somehow looking smaller despite his expensive suit. Someone who was raised to treat women with respect. The stranger replied simply, Maybe you should try it sometime. Trevor's face flushed red. Do you have any idea who I am? I could buy and sell you 10 times over. The stranger smiled, but it wasn't particularly friendly. Money doesn't buy class. Or decency, apparently. By now, the entire restaurant was watching their exchange. The manager had started walking over, clearly uncomfortable with the scene unfolding in his establishment. Trevor looked around at all the staring faces and seemed to realize he was outnumbered. This is ridiculous. Emma, if you change your mind about what you really want in life, you have my number. He threw down $100 bill and stormed toward the exit, leaving Emma sitting at the table in stunned silence. The stranger turned to her with concerned eyes. Are you okay? Emma nodded slowly, though she wasn't sure it was true. Thank you. You didn't have to do that? Yes, I did, he said simply. I'm Jake Morrison, by the way. Emma Rodriguez. She managed a small smile. And I think you just saved me from the worst date of my life. Jake's expression softened. Would you like me to call someone to pick you up? Or I could wait with you until your ride arrives. Emma looked around the restaurant, suddenly aware that everyone was still watching her. The mixture of pity and curiosity in their eyes made her want to disappear. Actually, she said, surprising herself with her boldness, Would you like to sit down? I mean, if you're not busy, I could use some normal conversation after that. Jake hesitated for a moment, then pulled out Trevor's abandoned chair. I'd like that. But maybe we could go somewhere else? Somewhere without an audience? Emma looked around at the staring faces and nodded gratefully. That sounds perfect. The transformation, 20 minutes later, Emma found herself sitting across from Jake at a small coffee shop 3 blocks. Away from the Golden Spoon, the place was warm and inviting, with mismatched furniture, local artwork on the walls, and the comforting smell of fresh coffee and homemade pastries. It was the complete opposite of the pretentious restaurant where her evening had started so badly. Jake had insisted on paying for their coffee, despite Emma's protests that she could handle it herself. It's not about what you can or can't do, he had said with a gentle smile. Sometimes it's just nice to let someone be kind to you. Now they sat in comfortable silence for a moment, Emma cradling her vanilla latte, while Jake stirred sugar into his black coffee. She studied his face in the soft lighting, noting the laugh lines around his eyes and the small scar above his left eyebrow that gave him character. So, Emma said finally, do you make a habit of rescuing women from terrible dates? Jake laughed, and the sound was warm and genuine. Actually, you're my first. I was just finishing dinner at the counter when I heard raised voices. When I saw him grab your arm, he shook his head. I couldn't just sit there. What do you do for work? Emma asked, genuinely curious about this man who had appeared like a guardian angel. I'm a carpenter during the day, Jake replied, rolling up his sleeves to reveal strong, calloused hands. And I volunteer with the fire department on weekends. Nothing as glamorous as what you probably usually date. Emma's expression grew thoughtful. You know what? I'm starting to think glamorous is overrated, she paused. Tell me about the carpentry. Do you enjoy it? Jake's face lit up in a way that made Emma's heart skip a beat. I love it. There's something incredible about taking raw materials and creating something beautiful and functional with your hands. Last month, I finished a custom bookshelf for an elderly woman who's been collecting books her whole life. When she saw it, he smiled at the memory. She actually cried tears of joy. Emma felt a warmth spreading through her chest. When was the last time someone had talked about their work with such genuine passion? That sounds amazing. I think I understand that feeling, actually. When I create a design that perfectly captures what a client envisions, there's this moment of pure magic. Exactly. Jake leaned forward, his eyes bright with enthusiasm. It's about creating something that matters to people, right? Something that makes their lives better or more beautiful. They talked for hours. Emma found herself sharing stories about her work that she had never told anyone before, the late nights spent perfecting a logo, the satisfaction of seeing her designs on billboards around the city, the small nonprofit she did free work for because she believed in their mission. Jake told her about his volunteer firefighting, about the lives they had saved and the community they had built. He spoke about his dream of starting his own furniture-making business, creating custom pieces for people who wanted something special and lasting. My ex-girlfriend thought it was a waste of time, Jake admitted as they ordered their second round of coffee. She wanted me to get an office job, wear a suit, make more money. Said I'd never amount to anything if I kept playing with wood scraps. Emma felt a surge of anger on his behalf. She clearly didn't understand what she had. Creating something beautiful with your hands. It's helping people in crisis. That's more valuable than any corporate salary, Jake. Looked at her with surprise and something deeper, appreciation, maybe even wonder. You really mean that, don't you? Of course I do. Emma realized how much she meant it. Trevor spent the whole evening talking about his possessions and his portfolio, but he never once mentioned helping anyone or creating anything meaningful. You've spent an hour talking about making other people's lives better. Which one sounds more successful to you? As the coffee shop began to empty and the barista started cleaning up, Jake glanced at his watch. I should probably let you get home. It's getting late. Emma felt a pang of disappointment. She didn't want this evening to end. Would you like to walk me to my car? The night air was crisp and clear, with stars visible despite the city lights. They walked slowly, neither wanting to rush toward goodbye. Emma found herself telling Jake about her childhood, about growing up with parents who had emigrated from Mexico with nothing but dreams and determination. "They taught me that success isn't about impressing other people," she said as they reached her car. "It's about building something you can be proud of and treating people with dignity along the way." Jake stopped walking and turned to face her. "Emma, I need to tell you something. When I saw you in that restaurant tonight, before all the drama started, I noticed you. You looked so elegant and confident, but also kind. I actually thought to myself that you were probably way out of my league." Emma's breath caught. "Jake, let me finish," he said gently. "Then when I saw how you handled that jerk, how you stood up for yourself even when he tried to tear you down, I realized something. You're not out of anyone's league. You're just in a league of your own." Emma felt tears prick her eyes, but this time they were good tears. "Do you know what Trevor said to me? He said I was mediocre. I should be grateful someone like him would even give me a chance." Jake's jaw tightened with anger. He's an idiot who wouldn't recognize something precious if it hit him in the face. But here's the thing. Emma continued, surprised by her own clarity. "Sitting here with you tonight, listening to you talk about your work and your dreams, I realized something. I don't want to be with someone who sees me as an accessory to their success. I want to be with someone who sees me as a whole person worth knowing." Jake stepped closer, and Emma could see the sincerity in his green eyes. "Emma Rodriguez, you are absolutely worth knowing. You're intelligent, talented, beautiful, and strong enough to build your own life on your own terms. Any man would be lucky to earn your trust." Emma's heart was racing now. What if I said I might be interested in getting to know a certain carpenter better? Hypothetically speaking. Jake's smile was radiant. "Hypothetically, I'd say I would love nothing more than to earn that chance." 3 months later, Emma stood in Jake's workshop, watching him put the finishing touches on a rocking chair for his neighbor's new baby. Wood shavings curled at her feet, and the smell of cedar filled the air. She had her sketchbook out, drawing him as he worked, trying to capture the concentration and care in his expression. "You know," she said, looking up from her drawing, "I never thanked Chloe for setting up that blind date." Jake looked up with amusement. "Really? You want to thank her for Trevor?" Emma grinned. "If she hadn't set up that disaster, I never would have met you. Sometimes the worst things lead to the best things." Jake set down his sandpaper and walked over to her, flinging her into his arms. "Are you saying I should send Trevor a thank you card?" "Don't you dare," Emma laughed, standing on her tiptoes to kiss him. As Jake held her close, Emma marveled at how different her life felt now. Gone were the days of trying to impress people who didn't value her. Gone were the sleepless nights, wondering if she was enough. Jake saw her exactly as she was, and loved her not despite her ambitions and independence, but because of them. Last week, Jake had gotten approval for a small business loan to start his custom furniture company. Emma had designed his logo and marketing materials, and they were planning to launch together. It was a true partnership to creative souls building something beautiful together. "Emma," Jake said softly, his arms still around her, "I love you." It was the first time either of them had said those words, but Emma felt no fear or hesitation. "I love you too, Jake Morrison." "Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for letting yourself be seen," he replied, kissing her forehead. Outside the workshop, spring was blooming. Emma could hear birds singing and children playing in the distance. The world was full of possibilities, and for the first time in her adult life, she felt completely, authentically happy. That night, as they walked hand in hand through the same neighborhood where Jake had first rescued her, Emma realized something profound. She hadn't needed rescuing at all. She had needed someone who could see that she was already whole, already strong, already enough. Jake hadn't saved her from Trevor. He had simply helped her remember who she really was. 6 months later, Emma stood in front of the mirror in her bedroom, adjusting the simple but elegant dress she had chosen for her and Jake's engagement party. It was being held in the coffee shop where they had their first real conversation, surrounded by the friends and family who had supported their love story from the beginning. As she looked at her reflection, Emma thought about the woman who had sat in the golden spoon that night, desperate to be chosen by someone who didn't deserve her. She smiled at how much had changed, not just in her circumstances, but in her understanding of her own worth. The door opened, and Jake appeared in the mirror behind her, handsome in his navy suit. He wrapped his arms around her waist and rested his chin on her shoulder. "Ready to celebrate with everyone?" he asked. Emma leaned back against him, feeling the solid warmth of his chest. "With you? I'm ready for anything." As they walked toward their future together, Emma silently thanked that terrible blind date one more time. Sometimes the worst nights lead to the most beautiful mornings. Sometimes getting your heart broken is the first step to finding where it truly belongs. And sometimes the person meant for you walks into your life at exactly the moment when you need them most, not to complete you, but to celebrate the amazing person you already are.